Imagine moving into your dream home, only to discover that every night, it turns into a nightmare. Strange noises echo through the walls, unseen forces watch your every move, and terror becomes your new reality. This is the story of the Amityville Horror, America's most infamous haunted house. Welcome to Mystery in the Dark, where we uncover the most chilling true stories from history, unsolved mysteries, and haunted places around the world. Brace yourself, because tonight, the darkness hides more than just shadows. The story begins in the chilling silence of November 13th, 1974. Inside a quiet, beautiful Dutch colonial home on Long Island. In the early morning hours, something unspeakable happened. Ronald DeFeo Jr., the 23-year-old son of the family, carried out a massacre. He moved silently through the house, systematically murdering his mother, father, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters as they slept peacefully in their beds. 6 lives extinguished by a single person. Inside a house meant to be a sanctuary. When the police arrived at 112 Ocean Avenue, the scene was one of unimaginable horror. But the most baffling detail was the utter lack of noise. How could 6 people, lying awake or asleep, have been murdered in the middle of the night without a single struggle? Without a single scream heard by the neighbors? This question still haunts the case today. When police questioned Ronald DeFeo Jr., his confession was chilling, but his excuse was even more disturbing. He didn't just claim he did it. He claimed he was forced to do it. He told investigators that he heard voices. Dark, insistent voices commanding him to kill his own family? Could a house itself hold enough darkness to push a man to such a terrible, bloody act? DeFeo was convicted, but for millions, the true horror story of 112 Ocean Avenue was just beginning. Fast forward 1 year to December 1975. The house, stained by tragedy, was put up for sale at an incredibly low price. Despite the gruesome history, George and Kathy Lutz saw the chance for a fresh start. They purchased the beautiful 5-bedroom home, believing they could look past the past. They thought the DeFeo nightmare was over. They thought a new coat of paint and new memories could cleanse the walls. But what if the voices, the evil, the very presence that demanded murder, hadn't left? The Lutz family moved in, full of hope, ready to start their new lives, only to discover that the spirits of the past were not only present, they were waiting. Their dream house was about to become America's most famous and most terrifying nightmare. They moved into 112 Ocean Avenue in December 1975, expecting to celebrate their first Christmas in their dream home. But the celebration never came. The darkness started almost immediately. Within hours, the atmosphere shifted. George Lutz, the patriarch, reported an overwhelming, crushing sense of dread. Every time he entered the house, especially the back rooms, he was overcome by an unseen physical weight. A feeling so profound, it felt less like fear and more like a toxic warning. It was as if the very air inside the home was poisonous. The physical manifestations were just as horrifying. They began to hear the unmistakable sounds of activity in empty rooms. Heavy footsteps, doors slamming violently shut on their own, even when there was no breeze. Rooms would suddenly drop in temperature, creating inexplicable cold spots that defied logic and physics, making certain areas unbearable to stand in. But nothing was as vile as the green slime. Strange, greenish-black ooze began appearing and dripping from the walls and ceilings. An organic, sticky, and utterly sickening visual symptom of a house that was literally decomposing from within. The house was not just haunted, it seemed sentient. George and Kathy both felt it. The distinct, terrifying sensation that the house was actively alive, watching their every move, studying them, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The visual attacks escalated. Kathy claimed she saw shadowy forms and ghostly figures lurking just outside her line of sight. Fleeting, dark movements in the corners of empty rooms. But the children were less reserved. They spoke of seeing strange faces and menacing eyes peering through the windows, even high up on the second floor. How long do you think you could endure such psychological and physical torment? How long could you stay sane when the very structure surrounding you is trying to break your will? The Lutz family tried desperately to fight back. They brought in a priest, Father Ray, to bless the home. But the attempts were met with immediate, escalating aggression. The priest himself reported a disembodied voice commanding him to get out. He was left terrified and physically ill, unable to complete the blessing. They realized they were not simply sharing space with harmless ghosts. They were trapped in a siege, isolated, terrified, and convinced that no one outside their walls could possibly believe the sheer horror they were facing. The house was the undisputed commander, and the clock was ticking. They were running out of time. And sanity. The siege. George and Kathy felt quickly turned into a terrifying countdown. The house began to force the family into its own dark, murderous schedule. Every single night, with terrifying precision, George Lutz would snap awake precisely at 3:15 a.m. The exact time Ronald DeFeo Jr. had carried out the massacre a year prior. Was the house forcing him to relive the killer's final moments? Was it preparing him for the same fate? The physical attacks escalated beyond slamming doors and cold spots. Objects flew across rooms without warning, propelled by an invisible, furious force. Kitchen knives, heavy chairs, family photographs. All became deadly projectiles. The house was not just deteriorating, it seemed to be suffering. The walls began to literally weep. A foul-smelling, reddish-black fluid, which the family described as looking like blood, oozed and dripped right through the plaster. The house wasn't just a location for death, it was the victim, and now the tormentor. Then came the visual horror. One night, Kathy saw it. A figure, dark and menacing, was crouching right at the foot of their bed. She claimed it was a demonic entity, whispering terrifying, specific threats directly into her ear. It was the realization that this presence wasn't just playing games. It had malicious, murderous intent. Could you look a demon in the face and still remain in that room? Even external validation could not help them. Friends and investigators who dared to visit 112 Ocean Avenue reported strange occurrences too. Doors that refused to open, sudden overwhelming foul odors, and temperature drops so severe they felt physically painful. The phenomena wasn't just confined to the family. The evil was undeniable. The psychological toll became unbearable. George's personality began to change. He grew irritable, cold, and obsessed with the cold fire in the fireplace. Kathy and the children were constantly terrorized. After just 28 days, the limit of human endurance was reached. The Lutz family, George, Kathy, and the 3 children, realized that to stay was to die. They gathered what little they could and, in the dead of night, fled the house, leaving absolutely everything they owned behind: furniture, clothes, photographs, and even the family dog. They ran from their lives, their possessions, and their nightmare, escaping with nothing but the clothes on their backs and the chilling memory of those 28 days. But the question remains, did they truly escape the evil of Amityville? The day the Lutz family fled 112 Ocean Avenue became the end of their nightmare. But the beginning of a worldwide phenomenon. They immediately went public with their story. Their chilling, detailed experiences, the green slime, the shadowy entities, the terrorizing 3:15 a.m. wake-ups, were documented in the now iconic book, The Amityville Horror, written by Jay Anson. The book was a global sensation, quickly followed by hit movies, cementing the house's place in horror history. But where there is fame, there is always doubt. The story instantly divided the world. On one side were the skeptics. They pointed to the speed with which the book and movies were produced, claiming the entire terrifying account was a fabricated hoax. A money-making scheme concocted by George and Kathy Lutz. They argued that the DeFeo murders, however tragic, had created a profitable fiction. On the other side were the believers. They argued that the horror was rooted in something far older than the DeFeo crime. They highlighted local lore that the house was constructed on sacred Native American burial grounds, claiming that a lingering curse or deep-seated trauma explained the evil that plagued the property. Which side do you believe? Is this the ultimate true ghost story or the ultimate literary lie? Regardless of belief, the house itself remained a magnet for the unexplained. Over the decades, countless paranormal investigators, psychics, and journalists have visited 112 Ocean Avenue. Many reported feeling an inexplicable heaviness, strange odors, and sudden temperature drops, echoing the exact phenomena the Lutzes described. Even the most famous demonologists in the world, Ed and Lorraine Warren, were called in to investigate. Though known for debunking many claims, the Warrens emerged convinced, confirming that an unusual and undeniably dark energy surrounded the property. They captured photographs and recordings that they claimed proved a true haunting. The legal battles and public debates continued for years, but one truth remains. Something horrific happened inside that house, both in 1974 and in 1975. The house has since been sold multiple times. Its address changed in an attempt to shake off the terrible legacy. But can a change of address really quiet the voices? Can it truly banish the entity that made 112 Ocean Avenue America's most haunted house? We may never know. The story of the Amityville Horror might have ended for the Lutz family the moment they fled. But for the rest of the world, the fascination was only beginning. Today, if you were to drive past 112 Ocean Avenue, you would barely recognize it. New owners have desperately tried to wipe the slate clean, painting over the walls, changing the entire facade, and crucially, replacing the iconic quarter-round windows that looked like terrifying eyes staring out from the attic. They even changed the street address in an attempt to shake off the terrible, morbid legacy that clung to the property like a permanent shadow. But how do you change the memory of a house that captured the imagination of the entire planet? Despite the attempts to erase its past, the Amityville Horror continues to capture the imagination of millions worldwide. Why? Because it attacks the most sacred idea we hold, the safety of the home. Year after year, decade after decade, the story is kept alive through numerous films, documentaries, and countless articles. Every adaptation reopens the debate. Is it true, or is it a masterful piece of fiction? The constant back and forth between believers and skeptics ensures the story never truly dies. The skeptics focus on the evidence of hoax and collaboration, pointing out the inconsistencies in the Lutz family's story. But the believers refuse to let go of the chilling evidence. The Warrens' photos, the DeFeo's claim of voices, the documented fact that the Lutzes ran out of their lives after only 28 days, leaving everything behind. Who leaves everything, including their clothes and pets, unless they are truly terrified? What truly happened in that house? Was it demonic possession, a lingering curse from Native American land, or perhaps psychological hysteria that spiraled out of control? Could it have been just a dark family secret turned into a profitable lie? The truth of Amityville remains as elusive and intangible as the shadowy figures that once haunted 112 Ocean Avenue, and perhaps that is why the horror endures. Because the things we cannot explain are the things we fear the most. If you enjoyed this chilling journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Mystery in the Dark for more real haunted stories and mysteries from around the world.